This is a round of the Prince Philip Challenge Trophy, the women's 8s, the juniors. We're going to see the Kinross Wolaroi School of Australia on the left of your screen against Latymer Upper School of London on the right of your screen.
Yeah, again, you know, you look through the matchups we've had this morning, and this should be an absolute cracker. Kinross coming all the way from New South Wales in Australia. So good evening to all of those who are tuning in from the other side of the world, down under. We hope you are enjoying our coverage and looking forward to seeing how your girls get stuck into one of the great schools here in the United Kingdom. Latymer Upper coming from the Tideway in Hammersmith, neck and neck off the end of the island. This is set to be an absolute thriller, I think.
Always an unknown when you're racing against a crew that is an international crew. You don't really know those quiet moments sitting on that start line. You've just got to stick to your plan and do what you do, but it's a little slip out the blocks for the Kinross crew from Australia.
And I think, you know, you look at some of the times that we've had throughout racing. Kinross, you know, slightly quicker to the barrier when they beat Godolphin and Latymer yesterday compared to Latymer Upper, who came through Henley Rowing Club yesterday. So to get that early advantage, I think, is no real surprise from Kinross. And, you know, they're a really strong outfit, really impressive outfit who have come across and have won just about everything that they've come up against in Australia this year, you know, including the New South Wales Head of the River Championships, the New South Wales State Championships. They've been superb in the 8 and in the quads and the cox quads and the 4s as well. So here they are coming up against Latymer Upper. Strong Latymer Upper crew, but at the moment it's still Kinross who are just inching away at the moment, just a little bit, stroke by stroke.
See those flags behind you, a little bit of headwind as we pass the Australian flag. See, it's going to be a bit of a longer race than it's been in the past few days. We've seen some fast times this week, but with the wind slightly changing, the crews have 2,112 metres to race with a headwind, so anything can happen down this course. But right now, this light blue of Kinross is just leading out of the darker blue of Latymer Upper.
You know, just listening in there, hearing some of the calls from the coxes, and they're just looking to break free at this point. Kinross have done so well in the opening stages to get themselves a length up on Latymer Upper, and now in the middle stages, looking to move away. But Latymer Upper still hanging on in there, very much in the middle of the race. You know, they're stroked by Julia Riley, and, you know, she arrived at Latymer Upper, a length or so between them, and that rhythm that Julia is creating is superb. They're still in contention and perhaps just starting to move. You know, she arrived at Latymer Upper with a fractured spine, only started sweeping in September, and here she is leading this crew, and I think they're coming back into it ever so slightly.
Well done, Latymer, because you've kept this to one length. Look at them go. We can see the overhead shot there. Incredible scenes. The cox has got to tell them, go now, stay with Kinross, or this is over, and I think they're responding.
Yeah, certainly. Kinross, yeah. I mean, that setup, the overhead shot is phenomenal, and they've got you know, that triple bucket there that we can see, but that's just kicking on now in that Kinross crew. We've got crawls from both boats, Latymer to hang on in there to make their moves, but for Kinross to step on and really stamp their authority on this race in the closing stages.
A triple bucket, you don't see that very often, so we call a bucket or tandem when you're on the same side as the person in front or behind you, and there's 3 times in that Kinross crew. Great shot overhead. I don't know, they're putting them under pressure though, Latymer here, if they can really squeeze on, but they might be running out of river as they're coming roaring towards us.
That's been a really mature last 100, 150 metres or so from that Kinross crew. I think that ability to absorb the pressure that Latymer have been throwing at them all the way down the course. We saw what looked like a bit of a surge coming from Latymer, but not quite able to overhaul and get themselves back in contention to Kinross. And, you know, we're coming through stewards now, people on the banks. We've got a lot of Australian crews over, big contingent, so I'm sure some of them will be on the banks cheering for their fellow Australians, and this has been a terrific performance to probably send Kinross into the semi-finals.
Wow, well done, Latymer. You really start turning it on there. You move through the gears, but Kinross Wolaroi School of Australia had an answer. They're still going, they're still ramping up through those gears. Can Latymer squeeze that gap to one length? It's probably a little bit of clear water right now, but I think Kinross have done just enough through those closing stages to move out as they come past the floating grandstand. They're coming past all those supporters cheering them on, and they're going to hear that sweet relief of the beat as they slump over. That was not an easy ride for Kinross, but hands in the air, a great cheer for a win in the Prince Philip for Kinross Wolaroi School Australia over Latymer Upper School.